What's up, everybody, and welcome to Enjoying the Review. On today's episode, we'll be reviewing episode 6 of Agatha All Along. I'm your host, incomparable Zach Jones, joined as always by the phenomenal Ajay Singh. AJ, how's it going
Hey,
today?
how's it going, guys? I'm trying to fix my hair, but I don't know what to do with it. There's like very little of it, so uh,
All right, let's get into it. So, episode 6, entitled Familiar by Thy Side. Now, AJ, I don't know why it bothers me, but like when a TV show has like a naming convention that they don't stick to. I don't know. It's like for whatever reason, like most of these episode titles have been like rhyming couplets, but
okay.
both episode 1 and now this episode is not. And so I'm just like, why wouldn't you do it for all of them? I don't know why it bugs me, but it just does.
I guess so. I really wasn't like paying attention to that, so yeah. I get it though. Makes sense. I'm pretty. I'm gonna go ahead and preface this, guys. I've been eating some gummies. I'll say that. Those are
well,
good.
um, you're going down your own witch's road,
I
so
am.
you
Yeah,
know
I'm hanging on here for this episode. Let's do this.
you might discover insights we never even knew about.
I hope so.
All right, so at the end of episode 5, um, the teen boy revealed he has a power, and he used that power to stick both Agatha and Jen and Lilia in the dirt, which was kind of a I thought he could have done something cooler than that with his power, but no, that's what he does. He just shoves them in the mud. And then he gets the headpiece thing, basically, telling us, yes, this is indeed the character of Wiccan.
You were right
Um,
the whole time. Yeah, that was your presumption.
yeah, I was
Sure.
pretty confident. It made sense, and yeah,
Right.
this episode nails that home. So now we know for sure. So this episode starts off with a flashback of the boy celebrating his bar mitzvah, and we find out his name is William Kaplan. Um, now I thought this. Now I don't know any Jewish people. I've never been to a bar mitzvah. Is it
Mhm.
common for them to have palm reading tents set up at a bar mitzvah?
I couldn't tell you, man. I guess it was like a very festive environment. Maybe they just had a, maybe they're in a place that had that stuff. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm just hoping maybe there's a situation where it would make sense. I guess.
I just thought it was kind of a random thing. I'm like, is that conceivable that they would have such a thing? Maybe so. I don't know. Like I said, I've never been to one. But anyway, he goes into the tent and he gets his palm read, and the person there giving the palm reading happens to be Lilia. Um, so I guess I'll just like jump ahead. Like we're gonna see like the other witches in this episode as well, but they never touch on if it's just coincidence or like more than coincidence, really, that they're in this episode. And I honestly, by the time the episode was over, I still wasn't completely sure. Because Alice also shows up in this episode in a weird way, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand if that was just coincidence or whatever.
So,
Um,
you said there's a 10 episodes in a season,
I would have to look it up again. No, I think it's either 8 or 9
and
for
we're
me.
at episode 4, 6,
This is 6. Yeah.
6. Okay, yeah. Okay, all right. So 8 or 9. I guess a lot's about to be revealed in the next episode because the last one's got to be the finale, right? So it's, I mean, you got to tie up the big fight and everything at the end. How are you gonna beat the big baddie? You've already probably revealed them in the second to last episode, I imagine.
Yeah, even though I'm generally enjoying this show, like I don't need a like season 2. Like I just hope they like, you know, I'm guessing they'll just filter like the two. Like I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing at the end of the show he'll find his brother, and then that'll set them up to eventually join like a new Avengers type of team, and that's, you know, the
You
function of.
know, I don't understand though, like why this guy would need a team, right? Because he's like super powerful. He's basic. You said he's more powerful than his mother at some point too. So Yeah, he doesn't need a team at all.
Well, it seems like whenever there's a superhero team, they always need to have that one guy who like knows mystical magic stuff. So
Yeah.
it works. Um, so yeah, he's getting his palm read, and she tells him that his lifeline is broken in two, and like she kind of sees a flash of like two sides of him. She tells him not to worry, that it often represents personal growth and important life changes. Um, she also at one stage goes kind of into her weird thing where she says weird stuff, and she says the tower is reversed, almost like a tarot card or something. Um,
Yeah.
she never really
Explains that.
explains why she said that. Like maybe that'll be a thing where we find out.
Well,
I have to imagine like we're gonna get a Lilia episode.
that's what I was thinking. Right. So we talked about this. I thought the order was going to be like the side characters before the main characters, and I don't know how important Lilia is now. Because it sounds like she's a lot more important than I presumed. Because her episode hasn't come up yet, and I think it's going to unveil more and more. Right. Because that's how this is going. You learn more and more about what's going on. So she's very intertwined in all this.
Yeah, they definitely did subvert expectations because the last episode was basically Agatha's episode, and then
Yeah.
this episode concentrated on the kid. So yeah, it is peculiar. And so yeah, I'm guessing Lily is going to get an episode centered around her, and then I guess we'll probably get more of Rio, the Aubrey Plaza character, at some point. Um,
I don't like her character all that much. Just
um, okay, so he gets his palm read and he leaves, and he accidentally leaves his jacket there. Now I thought this was weird. So Lilia draws a symbol on a tiny piece of wood and puts it in his jacket pocket, and then she tells a woman to return it to him. And we find out that that is the sigil. So Lilia put the sigil on him. But, and hopefully they'll explain this in another episode, but I was really like, why? Like, why? It just seemed weird to me that she was like, oh, I see him, you know, split into two people. I'm going to put this sigil on him. Like, why? Like,
I think she saw him when she was telling. Like she must have, because she said that tower thing, the reverse tower or whatever. I imagine she must have seen something that made her want to do that, right? So
so
we
maybe
just
they
don't know
will
what it was.
explain.
Her episode
Okay.
will come up. Yeah.
Yeah, because that confused me. So hopefully they do explain that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, a thing I'm curious about is, does the sigil only work when he's talking to magical people? Because like later on, like he's gonna get a boyfriend. Like when he first met his boyfriend and went like, "Hey, I'm William." Like, could his boyfriend not hear him? You know what I mean? Or does the sigil only block him from saying who he is to magical people? Because otherwise, everybody would think he's weird for not being able to say his name, right? Or they, not hearing his name.
I think it stops him from saying his actual name.
Oh, for like, the Billy
Yeah,
Maximoff.
yeah.
Okay. Well, and I'll get to it later on in the episode, but with Agatha, he actually says it both ways, and she can't hear either one. So I don't know. I guess I was a little confused.
Maybe there is more complexity to it than we know.
So the party ends up is ended abruptly because it's happening on the same day as the stuff that's going down in Westview with Wanda and everything at the end of WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
On the ride home, he finds the sigil in his pocket, but soon after, like his mom, like swerves the car, and it crashes into a tree, pretty close to like where the red dome is covering Westview. And William passes out. Uh, he's hurt. So his dad or his parents run off to get help, and he kind of comes to, and he says Tommy's name. And so it seems like, he all at once remembers his life in Westview in
Yeah,
WandaVision.
yeah.
So his dad flags down a police officer to help, and that officer turns out to be Alice. Which, okay, this is something that confused me. Is it just, was this a random thing? Like, because I think in like the early episode, like when she was working at a mall, like she mentioned like she had a whole bunch of different jobs. So like, are we to believe this is just a coincidence that like she used to be a cop for a hot minute, or do you think there's more going on here with the witches?
I think there's more going on here. I still don't know for certain. There's more and more reveals as it goes, and of course there'll be more. But all this stuff is like, it still feels like it's being like put in motion. It feels like everything's being moved around still, right? Like these pieces are being put together. I feel like somebody's doing that. Somebody's making that happen. I don't know what that person or thing or what the deal is, but I think something's orchestrating it all.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be kind of disappointed in the writing of this show if they don't kind of make this all fit together in the end. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if so, I'm hoping that maybe they'll answer some of this stuff. Um, so William ends up being fine physically, but he's having memory problems. He seems to have some sort of amnesia. And he also finds out that he can now hear his parents' thoughts. Um, when they take him home, the family dog barks at William like he's a different person.
Mm.
Um, so he keeps hearing his parents' thoughts. They're like all worried about him. So he yells at his parents to stop worrying, even though they're not actually talking to him. Um, he tells his mom that maybe she's right, that he needs to see his room because that's one of her thoughts, which really should have told her right there, like, "Hey, my kid just read my mind." We
But
did see
she
her
kind of
like
questioned it.
she did look puzzled, but like I don't know. It seems like she maybe should have explored that a little more.
Right, she could have pressed it. She could have.
So he goes to his room, and it's filled with like magical posters, like Houdini posters. There's also like figures of like witches. I think maybe like Wizard of Oz stuff too. So you could tell he's kind of into magic and witchcraft and things like that.
Mm.
So he looks in the mirror and he repeats to himself in the mirror that his name is William Kaplan. And
Trying to like, convince himself.
yeah, it's like he's trying to convince himself. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think that's what the intention was. So now we do a hard cut to 3 years later. William is in the car with his boyfriend. His boyfriend asks him what the wooden block is, and he says he thinks it's a sigil, and he describes it as a puzzle that's impossible to solve. William hears his boyfriend's thoughts that his boyfriend loves him. Um, William confesses to his boyfriend that he died in the car wreck and came back a different person, and he says he just pretended to recover so that his parents wouldn't worry.
That was
So
really nice of him, man, to like take on somebody else's life just so two people didn't feel bad about their kid missing. At the same time, though, what was he gonna do? Like run away and be homeless? I don't know. I guess it fit perfectly for him and them.
but like he must on some level remember his life as William Kaplan, right? Or like it seems like he would be found out, right?
He says at the beginning of the episode he did figure it out. He just, yeah, he never. When did he figure it out? Do you remember? Do we talk about that song? Like, is that gonna come up
He
when he
might have
figured that
mentioned it somewhere in this episode. I can't quite remember.
out? Yeah. Oh.
Um, his boyfriend asked him if he's not William Kaplan, who is he? Bum bum bum. So now he goes to his room and he's
This is where he figures it out. Sorry, when he has this conversation with this guy coming up.
so while showing his boyfriend a video on the internet of the anomaly in Westview, he gets like a a YouTube commercial with Jen selling her candles.
Right.
So my thing is, this is another weird thing, is like the other two witches, Lilia and Alice, in this episode had like direct contact with him, whereas Jen was just like, you know, selling her candles like we've seen her do, in like the first episode or second episode or whatever. So like she wasn't like directly involved with him. So again, I don't know if this is just a way to cameo those witches and
Yeah,
like it
I think
really.
it is. I think it's just like introducing that. Like, this is kind of like the first episode, right? Essentially.
Well, I guess a little bit, especially towards the end of this episode, because it goes like directly back to episode one and just shows it from
Right.
like his point of view.
So, like, even probably like before Agatha's point of view at the beginning of the series, because it seems like he's the one who sets in motion the things that Agatha goes through in that episode. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that matters for this whole thing.
So he zooms in on the video and he can see like the magical runes in the sky.
Hmm.
And so he puts it together that witchcraft was involved with whatever happened in Westview. He says he's going to meet a guy he met on Reddit who was supposedly in Westview at the time. So, cut to the next day, him and his boyfriend go to this underground parking garage. And I thought this was a little cartoonish. This guy comes in and he's like, covering up the cameras and stuff like that. It's like the old classic, like informant, like secret informant type thing you see in like cliche thing you see in TV shows.
Man, look, those candies are really kicking my butt right now. But I'll tell you this: I was very shocked, and I thought it was really bold that they went back to this dude. Man, like I heard people were really like up in arms last time they saw him, or I guess they really questioned Marvel's decision to put him in the series before.
Well, yeah, because the whole thing in WandaVision was like he was the guy everyone thought was Mephisto or some secret character, and then he just ended up being just this joke, character.
So it's kind of like Marvel just dug their heels and was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go back to that well. Fuck you."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy ends up being that Ralph Boner guy from WandaVision. He tells him about what Wanda did in Westview. William asked him if the experience changed him or gave him like new powers or anything, and he says no. Um, so Ralph's thoughts continuously say, "Don't ask about Agatha Harkness," but
I
like
thought that was funny.
I guess, but also a little cartoonish that he would just like
Right.
be thinking that like loudly over and over.
The whole thing was meant to be like, I think, silly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so William, of course, asks about her, and Ralph says she's an ancient witch that'll mess you up. And then he sprays William and his boyfriend with, witch repellent. I know this silly thing. Ralph said he got it worse than everybody else in Westview, and that Agatha hijacked his life. He says that she called him her husband, but he was just her puppet. He said she made him hold a nice woman as a hostage in his attic. He says he was a terrible influence on Wanda and Vision's kids. He said he even poisoned a dog. It's been so long since I watched WandaVision. I vaguely do remember the dog poisoning. I don't remember who he held in his attic. It's been too long.
I don't remember that either. Oh, yeah. Couldn't tell you.
So Billy asks about Wanda's kids. He's like, she has kids, and he says that Wanda and Vision had kids, past tense.
This is where I feel like he puts things together.
Okay, yeah, and he says their names are Billy and Tommy. So William remembers Tommy. Um, Ralph says that Tommy was a speedster and that his brother could read minds. William asks what happened to them, and Ralph says, "Who knows? Wanda's gone, and word on the street is that Sword used Vision for parts." He says that the twins just disappeared. He says he thinks the twins got caught up in the red bubble like everything else in Westview. Um, he says that he heard Agatha was still in Westview under some sort of spell, but he warns William to stay away from Agatha. So back in his bedroom, William listens to that Witch's Road song. And he also does research on Agatha, and he finds a picture of her online from the Salem witch trials, which I guess, had to have been like a portrait of her. So he does like a reverse image search of that picture, and he finds out that Agatha was present during like a Zeppelin disaster. I don't know if it was the Hindenburg or whatever it was. There's also a picture of her with Dolly Parton where it says like, maybe she was the inspiration for that song Jolene by Dolly Parton, which those kind of things I thought was just like weird to put in there. Kind of.
Yeah,
I think it's just them trying to be like clever or silly. I don't know.
right.
And also somewhere online it says that she was the sole survivor of the Witch's Road. Although, like, who posted that? Like, why is that on the internet? I,
Yeah, that is strange. Aren't they supposed to be like a very secretive?
you would think so.
You wouldn't be able to Google. If I looked up something about witches right now, I don't think a person's like a person's timeline like that was going to show up, and like basically their history up until this point in time right now. Like that's weird, right?
Although we did find out in episode 2 that this world is so filthy with witches, that within any 3 mile radius you can find a whole coven of witches. So
That's true. There's probably like witches trading cards at this point. They probably have like, oh, I have an Agatha Harkness, and I have a fucking Rio, and
yeah,
oh, fascinating.
there's bound to be some loose lips somewhere if there's that many witches.
I guess you're right.
So William decides to go to Westview and find Agatha, and I guess in all his research, he finds out that if he finds a personal object belonging to Agatha, he can do a release spell and get her, back to normal. So this is where it's going to coincide with episode 1, only now we see it from his point of view.
Yeah.
So he goes into our upstairs. He finds that locket that she found from episode 1, but he accidentally knocks over a lamp, which is what attracted Agatha's attention in episode 1. So, of course, she catches him like we know she does. And now we see episode 1 from William's point of view, and that the interrogation room was really just Wanda's living room.
Mm-hmm.
Which we already, even though we didn't see it, like we knew that he was in their closet in the earlier episode, not an actual jail cell. So we kind of knew something like this must have been afoot.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird here because, like, the dialogue between them is, like, similar but a little different than we saw in episode 1. Almost like when Wanda was, from Wanda's point of view, like, there was certain things he said that maybe she didn't even hear. I don't know. It was kind of weird in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it does this kind of short recap. Kind of quickly showing the things we already seen, like him locked in her closet and a couple short conversations between them. But like I referenced earlier, it does show her twice asking who he is. And one time he says William Kaplan, and then the second time he says Billy Maximoff. So in at least the case of Wanda, the sigil blocked both of those names. So now I'm like, I don't know how the sigil works, because he had to have been able to tell regular people that he was William, right?
I mean, is it essentially a protection spell?
Maybe they would look at it that way. I'm not 100% sure.
If that's the case, it makes sense to me.
Okay. Oh, so like it would work like basically, if somebody knowing his name would potentially put him in danger, the sigil kicks in.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll buy that. That makes a little more sense. So back in the present now, Agatha is able to pull herself out of the mud, and then Billy is able to finally crush the sigil. It's gone. Agatha insinuates that Billy was playing stupid, not knowing what a sigil was. Um, and that she also kind of insinuates, or she reminds him saying that he wanted to travel the road for power. And he's like, actually, I'm not interested in power. And she kind of like, doesn't believe that. He asks her when she figured it out. And she says that he and his mother have the same tell. Although she says she wasn't completely sure until he, used his magic and threw her in the mud. She calls him Billy, so she does know. He says that she can hear him now, hear his name now, and she says every witch can hear him now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's like a foreshadowing of, things to come. Like, maybe it will put his life in danger, other witches knowing who he is.
Yeah.
She tells him that he killed Lilia and Jen, which, if Agatha can just climb out of the mud, why can't they?
That's what I'm wondering.
That seems...
Yeah, same difference. She doesn't have powers.
I mean, I kind of have a feeling that all the witches are going to come back at some point, even Alice.
They better, I think, now, right?
Yeah. I'd be surprised if they don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, he says that he killed them, but then she kind of makes light of killing people, saying like, you got to do what you got to do. But he says, no, he's not like her. She asked him where he got this fresh body that he's wearing. Now, I'll be honest, like, again, since I didn't watch WandaVision, like...
Can we pause for a quick second? I gotta open the door for Liam. I didn't realize he's coming home right now.
Oh, sure, go ahead. I'll just ramble. She asked him where he got the fresh body that he's wearing. So I'll be honest, like, it has been so long since I watched WandaVision, and I didn't look this up, that I didn't know if they maybe used the same actor for Billy in WandaVision that they used here. But I'm guessing since she had this line, that it probably is a different actor.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Well, I don't know for sure, but, like, I'm just saying, like, that's probably, like, a fix for, like, him looking differently.
Yeah, like, makes sense.
My thought is if they were able to use the same actor from WandaVision, they probably wouldn't include that line.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So she tells him not to feel guilty about his talent. She says that he saw an opportunity, an empty vessel, and moved in. She says the fact that he broke the rules is what kept him alive and made him special, and she says it's also what makes him a witch. So she mentions getting back on the road, and he says that he doesn't need her anymore. He tries to use his power, but can't. And so Agatha basically insinuates that because he's untrained, right now he can only use his power like when he's having a tantrum or like when he gets really emotional, basically.
And then she continues to egg him on to become upset right in the next sentence, it seems.
She does. Yeah, she does kind of keep antagonizing, although he doesn't use his magic again here.
Right, he doesn't.
Also, at one point, I don't know if she says it, or I think maybe so, she insinuates that he can only hear people's thoughts when they're very emotional. So, like, I don't think he can hear, like, everybody's thoughts all the time. It's just when they're, like, in an emotional state.
Okay.
At least that's what that bit of dialogue made me think. Mm-hmm. So Agatha puts it together that Billy wants to use the road not to find his mom or dad, but to find his brother Tommy. So Billy agrees to finish the road with Agatha, but he says he will never trust her. She says the last one to the next trial is a good person, and he says that he's not that good. And boom, we go to credits. Um, so yeah, I, s- I don't know. This show, like, I'm still liking it, but both last episode and this episode, I think I kind of like less than a lot of the other episodes. Not that it's bad. I'd probably like a 6 out of 10. It's still like uh, decent, but I don't know. There's just a lot of like things that I'm uncertain about.
I do wish it was a little bit more dark and clever in some ways. Um, the twists are not as sharp as I expected them to be, I'll say. Um, and maybe it's a little too like I don't mind a little corniness, a little fun, a little lightheartedness, but I don't think it has the even though two characters died, it lacks a certain like edge to it that I think it. I'm saying sharp and edge over here a lot, but yeah, it could be a little darker in some ways. It's
Well,
supposed to be a Halloween type show, right?
yeah. Well, and I think a lot of our general complaints about the movies has been some of the movies almost go for the joke too much, and it almost makes them some of the movies feel like they don't have stakes because they're a little too silly at times.
Yeah,
And yeah, this one too, like sometimes serious stuff happens, but then you get like the Ralph Boner of it all, and you get yeah, like you said, like witches put in the mud who probably almost certainly aren't dead, and you know tonally it's a little all over the place where like it does get silly at times, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I wouldn't mind it being actually a little scary. You know, it's not really scary at all. Like if you're gonna go for like a Halloween vibe, if you're gonna go for that dark witches, people. You know, I don't know. I feel like they should be a little creepy, more creepy.
yeah, it's like they have the Salem 7 characters, but we really even them like didn't seem like that intimidating or anything.
Right. Yeah.
Which do you
Something
think they'll
supernatural. Like there is a little bit of supernatural stuff, but I don't know. A darker force. You know, something more. I don't know. A darker force somehow. I kind of like the whole Chthon vibe. You know, he's just an evil elder god, and he's really just maybe this is a lighthearted series, but it ends with something much darker, you know, in motion. That would be a good ending for me, you know?
I mean, now I totally think there's going to be a happy ending where he finds his brother. I don't know what'll happen to Agatha. I doubt they'll kill her off or do
You know,
anything that
I'll say
drastic. But
he could get the happy ending. That's fine, but let's just say, like, oh, you know how WandaVision ended with her having the Darkhold?
oh right,
So this could end with something like Chthon being revealed in some
or
way.
or or possibly finally Mephisto,
Or
something like that.
Mephisto. I just think Cthulhu would be like a bigger turn for sure. No, it would be less expected. And he is. I don't know if maybe he's more. I think he might be more powerful than Mephisto. I can't say for sure. Maybe not. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with that character.
But I mean, he's interesting. I feel like the history's pretty interesting. And then the thing is, like we talked about before, Billy Kaplan has a history as the demi. What's it? I don't know the full name. I forgot the name, but he's like the demiurge. So he's like the ultimate elder. Like basically, he's the combination of all the other elder gods put together, and I think the Gaia in the comics or something. He gets all this power, and or yeah, whatever. And he's basically the one who like defeats all the other gods, and yeah, he gets all this immense power and defeats everybody. So he's like the one who becomes the the power of the earth, like the caretaker of the earth in that way, I guess. And so Billy is able to tap into that power in the comics. So I mean, it's related. You know, you could do it. I'm babbling here, but I like the idea. I don't know, let's go with it.
I kind of wonder, like, if they don't kill off Agatha or Aubrey Plaza in this show, if they'll, pop up in other things down the road, like possibly like a Doctor Strange movie or something like that. I could see them
Oh, for
being.
sure. I mean, what's the point of the series if you're not going to like actually do something with the character?
Yeah, well, yeah, I get that, but then it's like, will we ever see Moon Knight again? We've seen some of these characters that I'm like,
No, I think financially you kind of have to, right? You have to bring them back. Like, first of all, you've already established them. There's a fan base that's going to appreciate them no matter what. The more characters we've already established, the better you do with these, box office numbers because there's fans of each character that all want to go see them, right? You got Spider-Man fans, you got Black Panther fans, you got everybody. Um, I don't know, man. Like, I think they're gonna have to pull these characters together at some point. That's what they're doing. That's just like Phase One, right? They were bringing in people, setting them up. You don't even for sure know who might come back or not. They got Phil Coulson, all kinds. So I think for sure they'll be bringing them back. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think there's some characters that are like, you know, less.
She-Hulk they can go without. I think.
There are lesser characters that, like,
Yeah.
they don't necessarily ever have to bring back again. They can just be in one property and never see them again. But I just think maybe it'd be fun to see Agatha and Doctor Strange interact.
No, that'd be great. Doctor Strange is, I know we're talking about something else here, but Doctor Strange in a weird way that I think is like it's a bigger. You know what? No, maybe the people with the powers, the magic powers, are the ones who have to be the ones who solve that whole issue that Doctor Strange is fighting, right? So maybe she will be a part of that. Maybe she will help him try to, I guess, fight the incursions. Is what that is.
Yeah, that's what they set up in Doctor Strange too. I only watched Multiverse of Madness like that one time, like when we reviewed it on the old channel,
Yeah.
and maybe I should revisit it eventually. I definitely didn't like it as nearly as much as the first Doctor Strange, but it did have some interesting things in it. So maybe I'll have to revisit that at some point.
I enjoyed it. I thought, I don't know. Yeah, I thought people were a little hard on it. It was definitely Raimi-esque. What do we expect, right? He put his stamp on it. Um, it was. I mean, it wasn't Evil Dead, right? It wasn't
Right.
exactly like he didn't go full Raimi, you know.
No, I liked it okay. It's just it's called Multiverse of Madness, and like you really didn't get that much of the
Oh,
multiverse in it.
yeah. No, you're
It's,
right about that for
that was
sure.
my I think that was my biggest issue with it.
I, I think that was yeah, you're right. That's a lot of people's issue with that, and I think I would have liked to have seen more myself. Even the ones they did show, there weren't a lot of major differences. There were some, yeah. One of them was like I think paint. That was super different. There was some. They could
Oh
have done a
yeah,
lot
yeah.
more with that. Yeah, it's a long movie. Spend like at least 15 minutes going through the different universes, doing different things.
That reminds me, not that she's a major character, but they set up that American Chavez character in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, and like we've never seen her again.
Right, right. My nephew has chosen to go upstairs to enter the house instead of through the garage, which I opened for him. So I'm gonna have to go take care of it.
Hey, well, I think we're done. That's
Oh,
a
okay.
wrap. So I'll just call it here, guys. So yeah, we thank everyone for watching. If you will, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe in audio form on your podcast catcher of choice. Thumbs up, positive reviews, all that stuff, and we'll see you next time. Until then, we hope you're enjoying the review. Bye, guys.
Take care.